My next patron question is from Andrew, who wants me to compare two animated science fiction adventures produced by Walt Disney Animation. Which is better, Atlantis, The Lost Empire, or Treasure Planet? Both were Disney projects from the 2000s decade, and both were attempts by the animation studio to do a grander scale adventure film with fantasy and sci-fi elements. Both were also box office flops that garnered a mixed reception from critics in their initial release, but both have since gone on to have cult followings. Due to this question, I watched both of these movies again, and I found my opinion going slightly up on one of them, and my opinion staying the same on the other. But which do I prefer of the two? I have to go with Treasure Planet. For years I thought it was just okay, but on this recent revisit I found myself saying, Treasure Planet is pretty good. What held me back from appreciating the film before was I felt we spent too much time on the ship and just wanted it to hurry up and reach the titular planet. However, I did not feel that way this time and was more engaged in the growing relationship between Jim Hawkins and Long John Silver. The directors Ron Clements and John Musker took full advantage of the setting and filled the movie with so many creatively designed aliens. They also capture the needed swashbuckling and adventurous tone, right down to James Newton Howard's great score. John Silver ends up being a rather fleshed out character with layers that allow us to believe that Hawkins would both take a liking to him and be suspicious. One aspect that's even divisive among fans is the character of Ben, a robot voiced by Martin Short. However, I like the energy and humor he brought to the role, and he's not just there to be comic relief. He's a necessary part of the story. Admittedly, the computer-generated environments and effects don't entirely blend with the hand-drawn characters, but the directors and artists were also experimenting with this combination of techniques, so I cut them some slack. I also don't find Jim Hawkins to be the most interesting protagonist, but that's a problem I have with Treasure Island adaptations in general, as he often has to fight for attention from the pirates. Unfortunately, I still feel very much the same way about Atlantis, The Lost Empire that I always have. I think Gary Trousdale and Kirk Wise's idea of doing a Jules Verne-esque adventure has a lot of possibilities, along with the setting of Atlantis. However, I feel the movie mostly just becomes a loud action movie, and I don't find myself getting invested in the characters all that much. While the filmmakers come up with an eclectic crew to join Milo on his journey, I don't find them all that engaging. The attempts at humor also don't do much for me, and the villain is underwhelming in my opinion. Princess Kida has a lot of promise though, as helped by a strong vocal performance from Cree Summer. But we don't spend all that much time with her, and that leads me to one of my biggest problems with Atlantis, The Lost Empire. The movie is so quick to rush from one plot point to the next. The submarine was shown early in the movie is such an impressive effect, and then it's destroyed not long after it departs on the expedition. And when we reach Atlantis, we get a quick glimpse of the people and culture, but that's pushed aside so we can focus on Milo and Kida's budding romance. The big action climax also begins only 15 minutes after we get there. We then get a bunch of explosions and fights, and it's over. I'm knocking a lot of the movie, but there are certainly things I admire about it. James Newton Howard's music works really well. Between Atlantis, Treasure Planet, and also Dinosaur, it's wonderful that he became Disney's go-to composer for these animated adventures, and he was also able to give each one their own unique musical feel. I used to be down on the character designs, with the hands especially befuddling me. However, I now understand they were capturing the comic book style of Mike Mignola, the creator of Hellboy, and I think that's neat. The character animation also reminds me a lot of the humans in 101 Dalmatians in the way they move and express themselves. Atlantis, The Lost Empire was certainly an ambitious project, which makes me disappointed I don't like more about it. Now let me know in the comments whether you prefer Treasure Planet or Atlantis, and thank you for your question, Andrew.